much time is remaining. A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds remaining. When your time has ended, the bell will sound again, and you should complete your comments before beginning. And before beginning your comments, please state your name and city of residence. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Fort City Council meeting to order. Glad you're all in attendance.
Today's invocation will be by Minister John McKenzie from the Bridgewood Church of Christ. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiances.
Good morning. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day, the day that we can gather together. We're thankful for the opportunity to share love and kindness and a helping hand with our neighbors. We're thankful for this community that we live in, and that we work in, and that we serve in. And we ask that you would bless this meeting today. We're thankful for the City Council and for the staff, for all who have worked to prepare for this meeting and who will participate in it. We ask that you would be with City Council members as they deliberate the items on the agenda. Help them to have a clear mind as they make decisions. Help each person who gives input to the decisions to speak their mind and to contribute to the conversation. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to have good schools, to have neighborhoods where our families can grow. And we ask that you bless each one as we seek to improve this community. We ask that you be with our first responders, keep them safe. We're thankful for them. You bless the proceedings of this meeting today. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
I'm going to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Bivens for just a moment.
John, I just want to say thank you for letting us have meetings at your church, and thank you for being here this morning. It is very much appreciated because your church is centrally located. Thank you.
The order of agenda items today, there are a few corrections, so I will read those into order. For items pulled from the consent agenda, there are 2 corrections. The first is MMC 22-0772 is being continued by staff to October 11th. And MMC 22-0735 will remain on consent, but Mayor Pro Tem Bivens is pulling MMC 22-0757, which is on page 10 of your agenda. Everything else remains as it is on the slide.
I think
yes.
Check this up here, Mayor Pro Tem, and make sure we've got your corrections here.
So Mayor Pro Tem, I have you pulling MMC 22-0760.
Yes.
0772 is continued.
Right.
0757.
Yes.
0776.
Yes.
And 0783.
That's it. I
Correct.
couldn't see that far. Thank you. Thank you.
The first item of business will be special presentations and introductions. And the first is a presentation of proclamation for the 90th anniversary of Epsilon Alpha Chapter.
Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, I think you're going to present this proclamation.
And I have to recognize the Honorable Clifford Davis, who is also a member of Omega Psi Phi. Is my microphone on?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And I'm going to read this and then I'll present it. I have to read it in larger font than what's on the presentation. Whereas Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated was founded on November 17, 1911, by 3 undergraduate students, that being Edgar Amos Love, Frank Coleman, Oscar James Cooper, and their faculty advisor, Dr. Ernest Everett Just, on the campus of Howard University. Whereas today, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated has more than 700 chapters throughout the United States and the world. Many notable Omega Psi Phi men, including Fort Worth's very own Judge L. Clifford Davis and Eugene McCrae, are recognized as leaders in the arts, sciences, academics, athletics, business, civil rights, government, and science sectors at local, national, and international levels. And whereas Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is a private, nonprofit organization of college-educated men, whereby the members perform public services guided by mandated programs, including social action programs, high school talent hunts, health initiatives, college education fund contributions, voter education and registration, NAACP participation, and the awarding of scholarships to deserving college-bound students. And whereas Epsilon Alpha Chapter, a graduate chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, will celebrate 90 years of community service to the Fort Worth and Tarrant County area on October 1st, 2022. We encourage all citizens to join us in thanking and congratulating the Epsilon Alpha Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity on its milestone 90th anniversary and for all it has contributed to our communities. Now, therefore, and after I say the now, therefore, that's when you clap, okay? The City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate October 1st, 2022, as the 90th anniversary of Epsilon Alpha Chapter in the City of Fort Worth. And it's signed by the mayor and the entire council. And even though the name sounds so formal, Omega Psi Phi, when you call them, you have to pronounce it like this. It's Q Psi Phi, Q Psi Phi. And so congratulations, men. And I am just honored to present this to you. And we'll turn around for somebody's going to take a picture of us. Judge Davis is going to come down.
No, I think that's too hard.
We'll get one with the judge. Thank you, Jack. I recommend that very much. Thank you so much. So we'll go up here. Okay. Jack, don't leave.
The next presentation of our proclamation will be for Tunnels to Towers Foundation.
Councilmember Michael Crane will present this proclamation.
Thanks, Mayor and Council and citizens here today. I just want to say, bring up Winky Hicks and Lori Hicks, Danny Payne, Robin Krause, Matt McClellan. I haven't seen Bell Haddad, but he's on this list, Tom DeLong and John Lamont. I have a proclamation for Tunnels to Towers. If you're not familiar with the organization, it was created in 2002 to honor the memory of the Fire Department of New York firefighter Stephen Siller, who, if I remember the facts correctly, got calls on the radio that the Twin Towers had been hit. He was off duty that day, I think going to play golf with his brothers, if I remember correctly. And instead of going to enjoy his life, he instead went to get his gear, drove to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, where he ran with the 60 pounds of gear into the Twin Towers and died. So since then, Tunnel to Towers was created for America's heroes, providing mortgage-free homes to Gold Star and fallen first responder families, custom-designed smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans and first responders, and they assisted in 51 in Texas first responders and military service personnel so far. At the end of 2021, the foundation delivered 200 homes. They make alterations to the home to accommodate wheelchairs and provide for the catastrophically injured. Additionally, the organization seeks to pay off the mortgages of fallen law enforcement officers, and the foundation's goal is to ensure stability and security for those families facing sudden and tragic loss. It hit home here in 2019, and that's how the race was created when Officer Garrett Hull was killed, and they paid off the mortgage for his family and widow. That was paid off in full. I'm honored to say we will have the third year of the 5K race, which is their big fundraiser in District 3 at the shops at Clear Fork on October 15th at 8 a.m. You can join Team Crane. I got a whole website dedicated to it and be a part of the efforts. I will run the 5K. I wasn't able to last year, and I promise you this year I would be able to. So I will. And I'm going to give you this proclamation and read it, just like Mayor Pro Tem Bivens. I need a little larger print these days. It says, whereas the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has committed itself to the memory of the 9/11 heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice during the attacks on our country, and to support our nation's first responders and military heroes who are killed or catastrophically injured in the line of duty. And whereas the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has honored the life and legacy of Fort Worth police officer Garrett Hull by paying off the mortgage of his family home after death in the line of duty on September 14, 2018. And whereas the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has assisted Texas's first responders and military heroes and their families 25 times by paying off mortgages or building smart homes. And whereas the Tunnel to Towers 5K Run and Walk Fort Worth has in only 3 years raised over $100,000 in donations to support the mission of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, the 2022 Tunnel to Towers 5K Run and Walk Fort Worth will take place on October 15th. And whereas the Tunnel to Towers Foundation shares the commitment of the City of Fort Worth in supporting and honoring the first responders and military service personnel who serve with honor in protecting our great city, state, and country. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby honor and recognize the contributions of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation in the City of Fort Worth. Thank you. Appreciate what you do. Winky, I don't know if you have a few words.
Mostly, I'd like to say thank you to Councilman Crane for his unwavering support of our run, and I'm proud to live in a city and with a city council and mayor like we have here that supports our military and first responders, and would like to open the invitation for any of you to come join us on Run Day. I think Mayor Parker's already signed up also. And for anybody that's here today, if you'd like information about the run, I do have postcards I can hand out or set somewhere that y'all can gather them. But thank you for everything, because our city is a special city that we're able to continue the mission of the foundation and assist our first responders and military service personnel. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you, Winky.
You have a picture? You turn around and take a picture right here. Here we go.
There we go. 3, 2, 1.
Never know where to look. Okay. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, Matt. So good.
Council, the following items are being withdrawn from the consent agenda or continued. MMC 220744, 220760, 220772 is continued to October 11th, 220745, 220752, 220754, 220756, 220757, 220776, 220783, and 222471. First item item will be the approval of the consent agenda as amended. Next item is MMC 22-0744.
We have one speaker on this item, Council, Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith, District 3. Good morning, greetings, Council. Government Code, Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 552, Public Information, Subchapter, A General Provisions, Section 552.001, Policy, Construction. Under the fundamental philosophy of the American constitutional form of representative government that adheres to the principle that government is the servant and not the master of the people. It is the policy of this state that each person is entitled, unless otherwise expressly provided by law, at all times to complete information about the affairs of government and the official acts of public officials and employees. The people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. The provisions of this chapter shall be liberally construed to implement this policy. This chapter shall be liberally construed in favor of granting a request for information. So I see you all have I guess I'll talk to the attorney. I'm just trying to get understanding what for this agenda item for Ware versus Ken Paxton. And it seems like it's something dealing with the freedom of information, and I just want to know can you all give us any kind of insight into what's going on with this?
Yeah, go ahead.
This lawsuit is being brought because the Attorney General's office has ruled that certain attorney work products should be released to the public. And attorney work product is a privilege that is granted by the legislature, and we believe that the AG's office has taken too narrow a view of what would fall under that category. So we are asking the court to decide.
Thank you, attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Got a motion, second. Thank you, Council. Any other discussion on this item? Please vote.
Next item is MNC 220760. Oh, sorry, that one was continued. Sorry. No,
No, this one's,
no, it's not.
yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, I'll recognize you first for pulling the item from the consent agenda.
Thank you. The reason why I pulled this agenda item is because I think everyone in this building right now probably knows of someone who may have needed home repair but could not afford it for whatever reasons. And so for years, since I've been on this council, the max we could provide was $5,000. $5,000 is nothing compared to making repairs to a home, like a roof, plumbing, walls, lead, what have you. And so I wanted this pool to make sure we know on the record what the change is, because we're able to do more than $5,000 now. And I'd like for staff to come and give us the details, what this means, who's eligible, and examples of the types of repairs that can be done. I see Victor. Is Victor coming? And I see Leah King. I know this will be of interest to you because of how United Way helps when there's a need like this. So.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, we made changes to our priority repair program, realizing that the cost of repairs has gone up tremendously. We looked at our neighboring cities, and they all have amounts that are much larger than ours. So we believe starting off with a max of $25,000 will allow us not only to do their roof, but electrical, plumbing, and a lot of other works to bring their houses up to code. And we just feel this will preserve the housing stock, the older housing stock in the city, and allow people to live in their homes much longer.
Now, some people wouldn't even apply for the 5 because they thought the city wanted their homes. Can you give some ease and calm about that?
Yes, we do have in here the possibility of filing a lien for units that cost more than $20,000, but those that are up to 20, it'll be a grant, and those that are above 20, we'll do a forgivable loan. So it won't be a repayment. It's simply something put in place to make sure they're not flipping homes after we've invested a significant amount of money. But those are eligible are low to moderate income individuals that own and occupy their homes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Victor. We appreciate it. Any other discussion, council, before we take a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Finally.
Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0745.
We have one speaker on this item, council, Adrian Smith. Okay, thanks, Adrian. That's the last of our speakers, council. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 220752.
One speaker on this item, Adrian Smith.
So I believe I'm understanding this correct, and I'm just, I always like to go on the record and state that this is not an issue with law enforcement, because I know some people have a tendency to think that when anytime someone speaks up about anything regarding law enforcement, they have issue with them. This is not that issue. My issue with this is it'd just be more spending. I would have thought that the CCPD funding was allocated to take care of law enforcement initiatives and needs, but this seems to be someone's pet project that's trying to come before this council to get approved. Now, if this particular item, this robot, is going to do a better job than the current law enforcement we have here, then maybe we need to invest in more robots. I've always went on the record and stated that the issue with what's going on in our city, the biggest issue within our city is the lack of police patrolling. We don't have enough of it. Now, maybe your neighborhood is cool. Maybe you don't have issues in your neighborhood. Maybe everything is peaches and cream, but I'm talking about the city of Fort Worth. What affects one area will eventually affect all areas. So until law enforcement gets back to the basics of patrolling, I don't feel there's a need to continue throwing money at giving them a blank check just to do what they want to do. Patrolling is effective. I believe they work 3 shifts. So again, what's the issue? But it's not my checkbook, it's the city's checkbook. I'm just a citizen, I guess. My money goes into it just like you all's money. So let's think about that, you all. The CCPD funding it should be able to take care of this robot. But again, if you feel this is something they need, then let's get 100 of them.
That's the last of our speakers on this item. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0754.
We have 2 speakers on this item, Council. The first is Adrian Smith, followed by Bob Willoughby.
Adrian Smith, I love this one. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram is the city's newspaper. Wow. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I already know what this is leading up to. We have an election coming up next year, 2023, I believe. There will be a voter wave coming, like we had before in 2021, where every district will be flooded with individuals seeking office, which is their God-given right to do so. But the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I believe, shouldn't be in our politics. If you're going to cover our politics, be unbiased and don't be compromised. I encourage anyone who's thinking of running in the coming election next year to be ready for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It's your right to interview with them, but if you interview with them, make sure they print it how you said. Do not take any of your words out of content, but to print it how you said. I feel like the Fort Worth Star-Telegram is not the only reliable news source. There are some here in Fort Worth that have surpassed the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I don't know if you all are aware of the Fort Worth Weekly. It's a great publication. The Fort Worth Report. It's a great publication. I just don't see how the Fort Worth Star-Telegram is the city's paper. You all report what you want to report. You all don't believe in holding individuals accountable. If it wasn't for the Fort Worth Report, I wouldn't know about the trip that our city manager took on 2 weeks ago with the billionaires. But hey, I digress from that. That's personal relationships. So the Fort Worth Weekly, the Fort Worth Report, Let's Talk Fort Worth. If you're not familiar with that, you can look it up on Facebook. It's a great show that addresses issues here in Fort Worth and keeps us abreast. But again, I don't trust the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I'm a subscriber, but I don't trust them. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bob Willoughby.
I don't really understand this. Why we get to speak on it if we can't deny this money to them? Well, I get told at the end you had to give it to them, okay? 2015, the Star-Telegram used to publicize the candidates running for office like a real newspaper. Somewhere along the way after 2015, they stopped publicizing and decided that they would interview and give us their decision on who we should pick. The little paper owned by a company out of California is going to tell us who we should select for our council members and mayor, okay? I don't like that. That's my biggest problem with them. When they started doing that, they became a political tool. They're no longer a newspaper, they're a political tool. They should go back to publicizing all the candidates like the Fort Worth Weekly does. Secondly, you people sit up here that make the decision. You got an interest in it, okay? You get endorsed. They endorse Gina Bibbins repeatedly. And Gina Bibbins is a pathological liar, and that's the truth. That's a
No, we're done. Thank you, Bob. Turn off the microphone. Thank you. That's the last of our speakers on this item, but I am going to turn to our city attorney, Leanne Guzman, some very helpful clarification on this item.
This item was put out for bid. There are a number of requirements in state law for the type of newspaper that can be an official newspaper for publication purposes. for all of the notices that are required by state law. There was only one respondent to the invitation to bid, and that was the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and it does meet all of the statutory requirements.
So in other words, we are required by Texas state law to spend this money on a newspaper of record to post very important official notices in the city of Fort Worth. Thank you, Leanne. We cannot. We can take a motion. Go ahead. Motion and a second, please. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 220756.
One speaker on this item, Adrian Smith.
Again, Adrian Smith, see more police money allocated towards, police uniforms, this, that, or the other. Again, I thought anything related to the police department was allocated through the CCPD funding. Somebody please just help me to clear this notion in my head. I mean, so I can be right or wrong about what I'm asking or saying. So anything that deals with law enforcement, again, I thought was allocated through the CCPD funding. So can I get any clarity on that? Or can we get any clarity on that? Or is it just certain things that are allocated through the CCPD funding?
That's a really complicated answer. The answer is no, you're not correct, Adrian. But I'd be happy to send a note from my office to give you clarification on the budget for general fund and also for CCPD and how we fund public safety. Any other discussion? You've got 2 minutes left.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. That's the last of our speakers, council. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 220757.
Sorry, 07. Okay. There we go. I'll turn to Mayor Pro Tem Bivens on this item.
This is another effort to help our veterans. We recognize people in need who provide public service earlier, and this is another opportunity. I'd like to get information on this so that Texas veterans and those who need help with security deposits, rent, mortgage, what have you, can know what the city of Fort Worth is voting for. And so, Victor, is this your department for Texas Veterans Commissions accepting this grant? And what it reads is acceptance of a general assistance grant from the Texas Veterans Commission in an amount up to $200,000. Can you speak on that?
Yes, Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, each year we receive a small allocation from Texas Veterans Commission to do home repairs. We partner with a lot of agencies to get the word out and provide that assistance to our veterans. So this is, again, another year that we're doing that. And so we just had an outreach event, and we'll be having more in coming weeks.
Thank you. Good job.
Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, you want to make a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0776.
No speakers on this item, council.
Ms. Bivens pulled that.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Gina.
And again, I've never pulled this many items, but we
You're
have a
good.
lot involving here. With all of the conflict, controversy, near death, and flooding we've had on Randall Mill, I'd like for someone from TPW to come tell me what this money is going to be spent on and for, because I don't want people thinking that we're going to straighten Randall Mill. That's $60 million.
Oh, yes, good question. Good morning, everyone. So this project is a public safety project, and it is focused on mitigating the two hazardous road overtopping locations where the channel overtops Randall Mill Road just east of 820 near Williams Road, just across from Mallard Cove Park. And so these are very dangerous locations where when it rains a lot, the channel overtops the road. There's flashers there right now, but there's been rescues, several rescues in the past, and most recently this summer there was another rescue. And so this project will basically rework the master thoroughfare plan for Randall Mill in that section, so we're able to make this safer. So the 100-year flood event will go underneath the road and not overtop the road. So this MNC is specifically for the design of that. So $2.3 million for the design and the right-of-way acquisition. And then another $8 million in the future will be a separate MNC where the project will go out for construction after a bid to construct the project. So it is a public safety project. We're able to build this project because of the fee increase in 2019, where the stormwater utility fee was increased. We were able to issue stormwater utility revenue bonds. And so this is being funded by revenue bond funding.
Thank you. And with that, I move for approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0783.
Go ahead, Gina. Okay. Okay. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2471.
We have one speaker on this item, Bob Willoughby.
I do want to make a point here about this. What I said at the last meeting, last thing I just said a while ago was fact, okay? And for the mayor to shut me down for saying fact, I think that's wrong, okay? Also, I want to say that I signed up for the Paxton Speak. If I say anything back there, you throw me out, okay? I have copies, photocopies. I signed up to speak against the Paxton thing you didn't call me on, okay? I'm going to send that to Paxton and see what we can do when you don't let us speak. I don't know. That's wrong. This here could be more people-friendly. What you got to do, you got to go through one thing, you got to load down. There was a lot of questions in there about this, and there ain't nobody to go ask about this stuff on this, what are we looking at here? All this claims for damages and stuff. There's a lot of questions. There's a whole list of them. But when you call, who can you call? Who can you ask? Who will go over with you? No one returns, well, they don't return my call anyway. They might y'all's, but not mine. So that's what I have a problem with this. It could be more easy, more people-friendly to explain what you got here. And actually, our website could be more people-friendly all the way around. You know, they got things on our website on dates that are not council meeting instead of dates that are, right reverse. That's how hard our website is. And this is on top of it. I'm staying on top of it before you jump on me here. It's talking about how this could be more people-friendly. Instead of having to go over and download, you should be able to hit a button and see this, and you should have a number there, someone to call, or a department to call to ask to clarify this, so we don't have to get down here and hold these people's time up to clarify this stuff. We could save a lot of work if you do your work at home instead of bringing it here. That would help a whole lot. And I just wanted to make the point that you did not let me speak on the last one about Ken Paxson, and that was wrong. Thank you.
Motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item are announcements by the city council members, including upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
I think Councilmember Carlos Flores is up first.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa, are you ready? All right. Okay. Many of us were, there at September 15th at the new City Hall, doing a groundbreaking ceremony for, our council chambers. It's a major step forward in us to making that new City Hall our new home. I appreciate staff, everyone else who'd worked on it, prior council members and mayor, and Tanyan Farley for his hard work with the Athenian Group. So good time had by all, looking very much forward to it, and thanks to the school students for providing us those wonderfully decorated hats. Next slide, please. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Gina Bivens talked about the importance of addressing our flood and road overtopping issues across the city. District 2, has its challenges as well. Since 2017, I've been working with staff to address the Lebo Channel. Lebo Channel is a major part of our flood control provisions, and it needs improvements. Those improvements are vast. We've been doing it in a multi-phase approach, and I appreciate staff coming by to the Diamond Hill area where the Lebo Channel runs to talk to residents about the continued phased improvements and taking questionnaires there along to get their input, because it's very important to hear, especially in recent rain events, what they experienced. So appreciate Jennifer Dyke and Kane Henry for coming out, along with other staff for making that happen. Next slide, please. All right, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and on September 16th, joined Northside Best Years Club at the newly renovated Northside Community Center. Had a great celebration there, ballet folklorico dances by our beloved seniors, DJ, food, dancing, salsa contest, and of course a terrific Northside Community Center staff. Made for a wonderful event. Thank them all, for taking part. Next slide, please. All right, September 17th, again, to tie into Hispanic Heritage Month, National Hispanic Coalition of Federal Aviation employees, had their celebration there at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum Friday evening. So they share a common mission with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum and to educate and promote aviation careers and STEM education as well. So it was joined in, myself, Roxanne Martinez, Fort Worth trustee, Pete Munoz, who is constable for Precinct 5, and other Hispanic leaders to encourage these efforts. Thank you very much. Next slide. All right, more Hispanic heritage celebrations, this time in the Fort Worth Stockyards. For the first time ever, we had the 16 de Septiembre parade there in the Stockyards. The Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber, Visita Fort Worth, Cassie and Hector Lopez Productions, Fort Worth Herd, and the Office of the Consulado General de Mexico joined us, as well as Police Northwest Division, to have a wonderful parade. Very well attended. We're getting the numbers back. 36% increase also in the subsequent event there at the Coliseum. Mexico en la Sangre, up 36%. And that's a vital shot of the arm to our local economy. So appreciate everyone who attended and participated. Next slide, please. All right, September 21st at Billy Bob's. Pam Minnick and Friends of the Fort Worth Herd had an event that we had cowboy conversations, right? We had local legends, Pete Bonds, who's a cattle rancher and former Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association president, Bob Loomis, former president of the National Reining Horse Association, to both educate and entertain us there with their very frank and conversational stories. So appreciate Fort Worth Herd and visit Fort Worth. All right, let's see. We're almost done here. September 22nd, Freedom Fest kickoff at Casa Azul. It's a great little coffee shop in the north side if you haven't been there yet. In anticipation to the Sundance Square event. This day-long event will feature many Latinas from across Texas, artists, elected officials, DJs, musicians, full market, fine arts, crafts, etc. There's a $1,000 prize for the best Frida entry, so look for that coming to Sundance Square. Next slide, please. All right, Texas Ranger Heart Foundation for Kids had a press conference over at Globe Life Park and awarded Artes de la Rosa, they are housed at the historic Rosemarine Theater, one of 5 $100,000 grants. So congratulations to the ADL board for their winning application. That organization is going to use this money to full extent. We're very excited about it. Thank you, Texas Rangers, and thank you, Ray Casas. Next slide, please. September 24th, Fort Worth Police Department, Academy Class 152 graduated. I was very impressed by the diversity and enthusiasm of this class. Was joined also by Councilmember Blaylock and Mayor Pro Tem Gina Bivens. Councilmember Blaylock gave some opening remarks, so thanks to Chief Noakes and his training staff producing some of the finest men and women of the Fort Worth Police Department, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Michael Crane.
Thank you. Put the slides up.
I had a chance. I was absent last week because I was traveling with Fort Worth Sister Cities to Nîmes, France, our sister city. It's a town in the southern part of France that has about 100,000 people and a great Western and Roman heritage. So matches up a little bit with us. And you can see in the picture there, that's a view over Nîmes. That's me and Mayor Fournier. I gave remarks actually to the group in French. So my high school French teacher would be proud or mortified. I'm not really sure how that turned out. But you also see the rest of the group. You see from the right over there, May Ferguson, who's president and CEO of Sister Cities, Mary Helen Hill, who is liaison with the Nîmes relationship, and Becky Renfro Borbola were part of our delegation with Renfro Foods and chair of Sister Cities. So it was a great time representing Fort Worth with our sister city there in France. We also did some cultural exchanges and had meetings too with the Embassy of Paris, the U.S. Embassy in Paris, about cultural exchanges. So there was some great work done there. Next slide. I just want to put this on everybody's radar. The impact that LVT Rise is having in Las Vegas Trail area is immense. We're going to do our annual luncheon on November 3rd. I'd love for anybody that would like to help make change in that area to be a part of it. We've got lots of work to do. It took a long time for it to get in the state it is today, but we're making some great strides. And then last slide, just a reminder, Tunnel to Towers, which we did the proclamation earlier, October 15th at Clear Fork. There's the sign up right there if you want to sign up to join Team Crane. We have a great team that's going to run, and 5K you can walk or just make donations. It's a great cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Bivens? Nothing? Go ahead. Who's next? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one announcement. The Wedgwood Library is turning 60, and to celebrate, we'll have some special guests, fun programs, trivia, a slideshow of memories, and a special birthday story time. So I want to invite all of our District 6 residents and Fort Worth residents to come join us for the celebration, and we look forward to seeing you there. For more information, you can visit the Fort Worth Public Library's Facebook or website. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Jared. Councilmember Firestone?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick announcement or follow-up from what I mentioned last week, which was the ribbon cutting for Alliance Park up north, and it's a fantastic park. We had a great showing there to really for the ribbon cutting and celebrate. Just quickly, the park has 3 competition soccer fields, bleachers, a shaded structure, or several shaded structures, playground, a basketball court, walking trails, pavilion, and a great lawn. And that's just the beginning of the park. It's going to grow over the years with more soccer fields, which I think will be fantastic for the community. We had some Hillwood representatives out there, and I just want to thank them again for their vision and their stewardship of the land out there. Texas Parks and Wildlife was there, Parks and Recreation. Also, we're out there, Richard Zavala and his team. I want to thank them for their commitment in getting this done. Also want to make mention that Anitra Blayton was out there as well, and she's the artist that is going to design some public art that will be displayed around the park over time, and I think that's going to be a great addition. It's, just generally speaking, it's an area that was really in need of this kind of amenity, an asset, and I'm just excited for the families up there and for our city and what we're going to be able to do with the park and how that's going to engage people. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Councilmember Nettles?
Yes, thank you. The first slide here is our budget town hall that we had at Chambly Library. We had communities come out, and we're going to get ready to vote on the budget today. The second slide is Crowley Stadium ribbon cutting. I had opportunity to go on both nights, Thursday night and Friday night. They're right there about Clark Road off of Reisinger. That's my nephew that's playing on the varsity football team for Crowley. And I like to mention that North Crowley, our alma mater, I think is 3-0. Yeah, we going to state. Okay, next slide, please. National Fall Prevention Month event. We was in Holland Hills. It was a great event. Senior citizens was in there swinging out and having a good old dandy time. Next slide. I brought this slide because I wanted to remind city staff that we're supposed to be getting identical hats done. Where's Manya? Hey, Manya, okay. We haven't forgot. We want our hats. Okay, next slide. It was kind of debacle, you know, we don't want to talk about that. Michael took it. Did you give yours back, Michael? Okay. Okay, I know. Real Estate Council, Youth Leadership, Councilwoman Beck and I, and former council member Carrie Moon was there talking about things in Fort Worth. It was a great event. Next slide. This is the Southeast Fort Worth Inc. Luncheon. We had a great opportunity to talk with a lot of developers, people that's doing work in Southeast Fort Worth that is on the rise. And so we're grateful for Stacey Marshall and his group. Next slide. Jazz on the Green at the McDonald's YMCA, where our senior citizens, they was boogieing there right there by the pool, having a good time. Next slide. Fall Build Day with the Southside Community Gardens. They have been doing a phenomenal job. They really started, I believe, around 2019, 2020, and they have really established their groundwork. And so if you ever want to volunteer, look up Southside Community Garden. They would love to have you volunteer and donate funds to their organization. Next slide. The Chris Howell Foundation Community Health Fair. They gave a lot of door prizes. They're doing a lot of work. Chris Howard is really known for the effort that he did during our COVID-19 response, and he's been doing great work in the city of Fort Worth, and so we partnered with him. The next slide. I joined my friend, council member. This is not in my district, it's in hers, and so we had fun time tapping the keg. I'm sure we can talk about that later, but that was a great event on Saturday morning. Next slide. That is my first lady, Miss Shakia. We was at the Zoo Ball. Next slide, please. The Harambe Festival is coming up this week, and so we encourage all of you to come out starting on October the 1st. I'm sorry, starting on September the 30th for Blues Night, Friday at 6:30, right there at the McDonald's YMCA. Come out and enjoy good music, food, vendors. And then the main is on Saturday at 12:15. I believe we also have a parade on Saturday starting at 9. So come out and join with us. Next slide. The parade for Tay is coming up also October 8th. They're calling for organizations and car clubs and bands to be a part of the community and parade for that. Next slide, I think that's it. Also, I want to say that on October the 20th, we have the State of the District 8 Address Town Hall at ACH, right there in District 8 from 6 p.m. to 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Beck.
All right. This did not make it on last presentation slide, and I wanted to make sure that we did it justice. On 9/11, we had City Center hosted a first responders stair climb, and there's a couple members of Fort Worth PD there, and I know I see Chief Swearingen in the back, and she was one of those participants, and so I really appreciate all the members of the Fort Worth PD and the Fort Worth Fire Department that woke up early on a Sunday morning and climbed a tremendous number of stairs in recognition of those folks that we lost on 9/11. Next slide. As Chris alluded to, we had the opportunity to speak to some young professionals at the Real Estate Council. It's always great to be able to talk to folks that are starting out in their career. So that's always a pleasure. Next slide. Aurora Oktoberfest. We did have a little trouble with that keg this year, and I just want to note for the record, last year when I did it by myself, there was no trouble tapping the keg, so I think we know what the issue was here. Next slide. We do have a couple of events coming up for Hispanic Heritage Month on the 28th, this Wednesday, which is tomorrow. We have Hispanic Culture Comes to Life. Next slide. CGO Vasquez Park celebration on October 8th, starting at 10 o'clock. We will have music by Latin Express. There will be breakfast tacos. I encourage you all to come out and enjoy this particular celebration. As you remember, council voted to rename Echo Lake in honor of a gentleman named CGO Vasquez, and so that's just part of celebrating that name change and a tremendous member of the Southside community. Next slide. And then this Sunday, do not miss the Michelada Festival in downtown Fort Worth. It's always a fun time. It is a family-friendly event. I encourage you to come out, listen to some great music, get some great food, and have not too many micheladas. That's all I got.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Michael, you had one more thing?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't, after a couple personal incidences this week, give a shout out to the Fort Worth Police Department, Fort Worth Fire, MedStar, first responders, my old friend Scott Craver, who's the chief or deputy chief in Saginaw, and his niece Brittany Mays, just doing what they do to keep us safe. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael. I think that's the last of our presentations, Council.
Next item is Resolution 22-2443.
We have one speaker on this item, Bob Willoughby.
I tell you, as much time y'all spend modifying things to make it better for you, I don't know how you get any work done. I mean, you took away our public presentation, you cut down our council meetings, you changed the time to your convenience, and now you want to modify this. I tell you, the best thing you can do is take this back off the agenda and leave it. But go ahead, you're going to do whatever you want to. That's what I've learned over the last 8 years coming down here. No matter what we say, at the end of the day, you do what you want. And that's the God's truth. That's no lie. And when you start doing what we want, then we'll feel more a part of this city. It's our money, our tax money. And you don't recognize it as our money. You think it's all your money and your things to change to modify this. You know what? If you want to do this right, put it out in the city news. Use our city news the right way. And ask the people, do we want to modify this? You don't. You put whatever you want on the agenda that suits you. And then whether we like it or not, you do what you want at the end of the day. I've been to over 100 council meetings. And I watched this train keep going on. And I'd love to see some real council members in about 10 months that will listen to the people and do what the people say. Yes, sir. That would be really good. Yes. And I think we've got one council member doing that now, and I don't want to embarrass him. So I won't mention Chris's name. So the rest of y'all, you know, it used to be able to put my website up here until Maddie got here. I could always put my website, and then you could see the videos of them. Okay, and that tells you the whole story. You can see the video, but she stopped that. Oh, God, that's got to stop. So now you got to go to my Facebook page at Bob Willoughby. Then you can find my website, and then you can see the video of them. And this is what we got to change. We just need honest, decent people up here that will do the job for us. But you've done so much changes, it's unreal. You took away our right to speak. That's our First Amendment. How could you do that? And sit there and think that you're somebody. Oh, yeah. Don't miss her $150 seat meeting at Dickey's Arena. No public town hall meeting for the poor people. You can only see her if you can afford a $150 seat at Dickey Arena Friday. So make sure you see Maddie Parker there, that presentation there. But she never comes out and do town halls and talks to us. So maybe you won't be there another 10 months. I'm sorry, you're just not cut out for this job. This is a city. We've got people living out there. We've got people suffering out there. And you're taking our money and you're living high like you're somebody. You're not. Thank you.
We have one more speaker on this item. No, I'm sorry. That's the last of our speakers, Council.
Yeah, I have a motion. Move to approve Resolution 22-2443 with the following amendment. The effective date of the amendments, the council rules of procedure will be October 4th, 2022.
Councilmember Nettles.
Did you have some? Well, so I do want to have a comment on this, and I talked about this last time in the meeting about limiting the right for our community to speak. And so this will definitely limit that amount of right. I believe that every agenda item that comes on to City Council, whether it's non-consent or consent, that we the people have the right to speak on that consent agenda item for 3 minutes each. I think that we have streamlined a lot of things since we've been on this council, and I have not agreed with a lot of that. And so today, again, I want to say that when I took the sworn oath to represent District 8 in the city of Fort Worth, I said, may the power remain with the people. And when we do this, we're taking a more power word from the people. So today, I want to do a substitute motion to continue this vote for 30 days so that we can discuss it in work session. I know we talked about it in executive session, but I want us to talk about it in work session. I know we have a couple of people out of 900,000 people that live in Fort Worth that kind of abuses the right to speak, but we should not take it out on the rest of the people right to speak. And that's my substitute motion on the floor.
Got a substitute motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Go ahead, Jared.
Second that as well. While I understand that other government entities allow for this type of measure on consent items because it has one vote, I'm not quite ready for the non-consent items, so I think having continued discussions is worth it.
I've got a motion and a second on the floor. Council, please vote on the substitute motion. Motion fails. Now I've got an original motion on the floor.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have another substitute motion I want to give. Motion to approve with the following amendments: that the amended to the rules of procedures related to the non-consent item will be removed so that an individual may continue to speak for 3 minutes per item on the non-consent agenda item. And if Leanne can kind of give context to what this amendment to this motion is for me.
Yes, this amendment will allow for the speakers to speak on each item that is on non-consent. So there would be no change at all to the non-consent items. It would continue as it is today. So that the only change would be to take consent as a block and for speakers to speak for 3 minutes on all consent-only items.
One more question for clarification. On the non-consent items, council votes on each one individually, correct?
Correct.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Motion failed. Now we're going to go back to the original motion, but just out of clarity, I'm going to have Michael Crane read that motion one more time. Sorry, Michael.
This is the motion that was given to, it says, a move to approve Resolution 22-2443 with the following amendment. The effective date of the amendments to the council rules of procedure will be October 4th, 2022.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, go ahead, Elizabeth. Of course.
I just want to speak to a couple of things on this particular item. Just for the record, this change, Mr. Willoughby, I hope that you subscribe to the City News because I heard you say that it was not put out in the City News, but it actually went out September 7th in our City News, and we worked on social media to make sure that that the residents of Fort Worth are aware of this potential change. We do that so that we invite folks like you, Mr. Willoughby or Mr. Smith, or anyone else who chooses to come down to council and address us, have the opportunity to voice your opinion on this particular change. We've had 2 dissenters in that particular argument, and so I think it's clear that there's not a lot of dissent about this particular change. And I'd also just like, for the record, to say that I thoroughly enjoy working with my colleague, Maddie Parker, and I think that she does a great job as mayor. I think she is cut out for the job. I think that she is old enough to have the job.
Thank you.
And I think she works really hard, and so I don't appreciate the words that were spoken earlier.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Councilmember Crane, your light's still on. Are you good? Okay. Councilmember Nettles, go ahead.
Yes, I just have a comment. And so with the motion that's on the floor, I will not be supporting that motion. I will say that those of you that are here and those that you're watching, that regardless of what you think, this is stripping your right to speak on your free will right to speak. And I believe that you elected us here to hear from the people. And emails and phone calls are great, but sometimes face-to-face is a lot better. And that's why we're here, to hear what you have to say. I signed up for this. When I put my name on the ballot, I signed up to get brutalized, talk bad to and to represent you, and I'm going to do it if I got to do it by myself.
Councilmember Bivens.
I'm going to comment regarding the schedule, the timing. I think about 2016 is when we had quite a few activists coming with always points to be made that were listened to and respected. I had been striving for at least one daytime meeting because I wanted school children to see how government really works. I am glad that we have a 10 o'clock meeting. I've been working with my school board trustee so that we can have government day at some of the schools, not just Fort Worth ISD, because the children really need to know how government works. And it's not always about shouting about people, calling people's names out in terms of lying. It's about how tax dollars are being spent. And so I'll be supporting this, but my passion is for children to know how government works. So I'm going to be supporting it.
Thank you, Gina. I appreciate all the dialogue on this dais. I think it's important, a few things that we've talked about now at 3 different meetings about this small change. We are still by far one of the most transparent and available cities in the entire country when it comes to public comment period. That is just a reality. I'm happy to send you the presentation from City Legal that's been presented numerous times over. I can't tell you how often I make phone calls or sit personally with people that have a discrepancy or an item on council that they want removed, they want continued, they want more information. That is where the dialogue happens. And so I realize that there are some people that don't quite understand this. This is a very minor change. It's a 3 minutes for all consent items and then your non-consent items. And again, zoning cases will still have the same allotment for speaking time. So thank you to my colleagues on this dais for a very important dialogue today. But I think we're making a bit too much out of a very small change here today. And Mr. Willoughby, I have to say this. This city council and the entire city staff has spent more time with you, one individual, than anybody else out of 1 million residents in the entire city of Fort Worth. And I'm just going to remind you of that if people aren't returning your phone calls or your emails, it's not because the issues aren't valid, it's because you badger people in a way that is so disrespectful and makes it very difficult for them to do their jobs. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2475.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2446.
No speakers on this item, Council? Please vote. Thank you, Council. I don't have a vote button, sorry. Oh, Councilmember Beck, one more, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I think this is a great idea. I applaud you for doing this work. However, I think it's lacking. The resolution is lacking. I don't think that it fully encompasses maternal health if you don't talk about reproductive justice in that lens. 76104 has the highest maternal mortality rate in the state. Access to reproductive care is part of the effort that goes forward to move that. We cannot talk about women's health. We cannot talk about children's health. We cannot talk about improving that if we are not talking about access to reproductive services. And so for that reason and that reason only, I cannot support this particular resolution without that language in it. However, I do support your efforts, and I look forward to working with you on that. And I don't appreciate that this is on the agenda.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other discussion, Council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2463.
Motion and a second. I just have to commend staff and Valerie Washington for moving so quickly on this resolution. Thank you. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2464.
Motion and a second, and special thanks to Councilmember Chris Nettles and Councilmember Michael Crane for continuing to serve on Trinity Metro's board. Motion carries.
Next item is Ordinance 22-2468.
No speakers on this item, Council. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2472, public hearing on the proposed 22 tax rate. Report of city staff by Casey Lay-Lamus.
And after Casey gives her staff report, we'll hear from two speakers, Bob Willoughby, and then followed by Kenya Alou.
Good morning. My name is Casey Lay-Lamus. I'm with the Planning and Data Analytics Department, and I'm here to provide some information on the proposed tax rate. The recommended tax rate for fiscal year 23 is 71.25 cents per $100 valuation. This is a 2-cent reduction from the fiscal year 22 adopted rate. Each year, the city uses the appraised values received from the various appraisal districts in order to calculate a property tax rate. For the fiscal year 2023, we are looking at just over $100 billion in valuation. That is a 14.5% increase in property values over fiscal year 22. The taxable value along with the tax rate is estimated to yield roughly $664 million in property tax revenues. Those revenues go to our debt service fund and general fund. The 71.25% overall proposed rate is split into two required functions, operations and maintenance, or O&M, and the debt service. The debt service rate for fiscal year 23 is proposed to be unchanged from fiscal year 22 at 14.75 cents. The operations and maintenance portion is split internally between two major functions, what we call capital or PAYGO, which is a cash-funded infrastructure program in order for the city to maintain our capital infrastructure on a cash basis. That for the fiscal year of 23 is proposed to see a half-cent increase over fiscal year 22. For the operations and maintenance portion, we are taking the reduction entirely there. That is what funds our general fund, and that rate is going down 2.5 cents. Those net changes for fiscal year 23 will yield the 71.25 cent proposed tax rate, which again is a 2-cent reduction from fiscal year 22. So far this year, we have had multiple public hearings. We have had multiple budget engagement work sessions with council, and so this tax rate public hearing is the next step in our budget development process. At the close of this public hearing on today's agenda, council will be given the opportunity to vote on various resolutions and ordinances in order to adopt the fiscal year 2023 budget and proposed tax rate. Thank you so much.
Our first speaker is Bob Willoughby.
I must say, I don't think it's right for y'all to attack me up there when I can't say anything. Come on my radio show and say the same thing, okay? Otherwise, quit attacking me, Beck. Come on my show. Mayor, come on my show and attack me. It's not right. Stand up there and have to listen to you attack me, and I can't defend myself with these lies. Okay, this budget thing, this tax rate, it could even be lower. I went to all the budget meetings, a lot of the budget meetings. What they wouldn't talk about at budget meetings is wasteful spending. $500,000 to keep Chief Fitzgerald from coming back. $200,000 for 2 more council members. We've got 7. I used to say 8. We've got 7 don't answer questions now. Why do we need that? Okay. Plus that was a scam from the beginning. But the main thing I do want to say, that it's really a waste of time until you have a real mayor and a city manager. A lot of these issues all around the city will start working, but until you have that, all trails lead there. And this mayor will not do anything, will not return phone calls, will not come on our show and defend us. She'll attack me from right there, but will not come on my radio show and do it publicly because we're on equal ground. While they sit on these pedestals and look down on us, they're powerful. Bob Willoughby, Facebook, go to my website. You'll see the videos of these people afterwards. And that's what they don't want you to see, them afterwards. They're not so strong when they come down here. They won't come down here with me. They run. Crane's going to get he could be in Olympus. I've never seen anybody run that fast. But anyway, Hollywood, I wished you would come around and be real. When I met with you and you said you want to be a real council member, you lied to me. You blew smoke at my shirt. You have not been a real council member. I wish you would come around. I wish Jarrett would come around and be a real council member, but you're not. You're scared to. You won't take a stand and do what's right. Right or wrong, that's all we need down here. You know what? If you wouldn't took my 3 minutes away to speak down here, I could say stuff, but you took away my right to speak. Thank you.
On the tax rate. Our next speaker is Kenya Alou.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for listening. As we know, my name is Kenya Alou. I live in Fort Worth. And as we know, inflation is out the roof. Everything costs more, not just gas, groceries, everything costs more for people. People are struggling. I was at the TCC meeting. They raised our taxes there despite everybody speaking against it. The ISD I'm in happens to be Keller, raised our taxes also. Now, I understand there's a difference between the rate and a raise. So I understand that the rate can be reduced, but what is important is how much is coming out of everybody's pocket when they have to actually pay their taxes. And it's not less, it's more. And so we need a no new revenue. I know you guys can make it happen, and I know you can be creative with the budgets, but people are hurting. And let me see here, I have some notes. I think I just wanted to convey, it can be done. Cities around us are doing it. And I know that Fort Worth is great, and I know that you guys can make it happen. And I know that Alan has been the only one that's been for this so far. Maybe that might be old news, but I would hope that you all would consider adopting a no new revenue, because it's just not the right time for this. It's just not. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Council, that's the last of our speakers on this item. I guess we need to make a motion to close the public hearing, and I'll take discussion from council members as needed. Yeah, I think so. I'll let Gina go first, and then we're going to open discussion. Not that one. Just a click. Get a motion in a second, council? Thank you. Okay. I can turn to Councilmember Crane
I
first.
just wanted Leanne to give clarification on what we're actually voting on right here.
Just the public hearing, and this is not an actual vote right now. This was just to hear from the public. So the votes will be on the ordinances that follow.
So you need us to actually vote on closing the public hearing, or no? Yes. Okay. Motion carries.
Next item is Ordinance 22-2465.
That's what?
No.
No.
This is just the fee ordinance. Yep.
Okay. So we need a motion in a second? Perfect. Council? I need a motion. Thank you. Thank you. A motion in a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Ordinance 22-2466.
This is the ordinance, but yeah, go ahead, Leanne.
This is the budget ordinance, so that if there's going to be any discussion, it is keyed to the proposed tax rate, so if there's going to be any discussion on lowering the tax rate, you would want to have that at this point. That one is not for this one. This one is where you would, if you want to make a proposal.
Okay. Have a proposal. I've listened a lot to different constituents, et cetera, and what I pledged to do was bring an efficient and effective government as best I could with my colleagues. And what I'm going to propose is because I believe in the city staff and I believe in city management. And while I believe that the budget we put together was good, I think there's more room and we can do better. So I don't think we can get to a no new revenue rate. I think we can reduce it by 2 more cents. We're in the middle of a recession, inflation. People are hurting, as Kenya just said. And so markets are uncertain. So there's a reduction already to 71 1/4, but I think we can give additional relief. So my motion is going to be to reduce it, and this says I move that the budget ordinance be amended by the equivalent of 2-cent tax rate reduction of approximately $18 million to be accounted for through reductions of expenditures in the operating budget. That would put us, I think, below the rate of inflation, which is also some of the feedback I've gotten.
We've got a motion on the floor, council.
I will hesitantly provide a second.
Thank you.
A motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Go ahead.
I think now would be appropriate time for us to speak on the budget, because if we're going to discuss an arbitrary lowering of our tax rate in relation to the budget, I think it's important that we take a moment to talk about what is in that budget. First of all, let me say thank you to the staff and the city management who has worked so hard over months and months and months. I think it starts in February, right, for the next budget cycle. And this was the first one that I had the opportunity to be at the city of Fort Worth with the entire time. Last time we kind of stepped in towards the end, and I've seen how hard staff works and how they put this budget together. They aren't given a pot of money and told, do what you want with it, make that work. They come to management and they plead their case, so to speak. They have decision packages. They tell folks, these are how many new staff members we need. This is how many new miles of sidewalk we need. This is how much we need to pay for our neighborhood services or for our mowing. And from that, a budget is created. And obviously with the interaction with our tax rate. And so I want to really highlight what the budget gets us at the proposed tax rate, the 71 cents, not the 69 cents that Mr. Crane has proposed. As part of this process, city staff did a lot of work for engagement. We had the Molly campaign where you could take the photo of Molly and tell us where you wanted us to see your money spent. We had numerous public meetings. We had an interactive website where folks could go and leave their comments and really tell us what I want. And so thank you, Renee and Michelle and staff, for doing that, because it does seem like a far, much more effort was put into making sure that we have community feedback. And so I want to highlight some of the concerns that I've heard as a council member and that staff heard as part of this process. One we have heard over and over again is homeless camps in this city, and the need for cleanup and monitoring of those. Part of this budget gets us 6 new HOPE officers. And those HOPE officers go out with code and paramedics to address the homelessness camps and the unsheltered folks in our city. And as part of this budget, we have 64 new police officers. 6 of those are HOPE, 3 of those are a crisis intervention team, and 6 of those are NPOs. And I believe several of those NPOs are to go into neighborhoods that, Michael Crane, you represent, and we've heard you talk about not having an NPO. The total cost for a new police officer with gear, body armor vests, uniforms, training, and salary is approximately $162,000. We have heard the residents say that they want a safer city, that they want our police time response to be more efficient. They want us faster. We want more MPOs. We want more patrol, keeping our neighborhoods safe. We do have a violent crime issue in this city, and that's what those 64 police officers are doing. Now, that dollar amount is approximately $10 million, and that's your 1%. So do we tell the citizens of Fort Worth that we're going to not put 6 new NPOs out, 6 new HOPE officers, 3 new CIT officers? Do we tell them that we are going to reduce the budget by $10 million? We're also adding to fire. We're adding 6 new sworn positions to fire at almost just shy of another $1 million. And that's just for our public safety police officers. We're also expanding the school crossing guard program. So now middle schools are included in that in the budget. We have an additional street maintenance and repair. We get calls daily to our offices about street lights being out. And, you know, how can, it's been out for a month, it's been out for 2 months, when is the city gonna come? It's our 5th most popular concern for the call center. When people call into the City of Fort Worth call center, the 5th most popular reason is because a single street light is out. And part of this budget allocates additional funding so that when you have a street light out, which is a safety issue in your neighborhood, that we will be there within 30 days to fix that. We are increasing our street maintenance in the form of striping. Currently, our restriping schedule does not comport with the lifespan of the product that we use. Because of this budget, we no longer have to guess what lane we're in. When we're driving down the road, we'll be able to clearly mark those and clearly see those. This is supporting our massive growth that the city of Fort Worth has seen. We are the 12th largest city. We are the fastest growing city, and we need people to make sure that we support that growth. I know on the campaign trail, the one thing that I heard over and over again was the permitting process was broken, and it did not matter if it was a resident just trying to make an upgrade to their home or a multi-million-dollar developer. Over and over again, we heard that. And quite frankly, the majority or a large portion of that growth is coming from District 3 and District 7 and District 6. We need those people because we have got to make sure that we are correcting our tax base, that we're not just focusing on residential, that we get that commercial tax base back up. And part of doing that is making Fort Worth a friendly place to do business. And a friendly place to do business is a friendly place to build. And this is part of our friendly place to build. 40 new people will go into development services, and we will have them deployed to areas that we know have rapid growth. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Code. We get a lot of calls about code. I know I do. I know Ms. Bivens, you certainly have had your dealings with code over the years in your district. And so we're putting more code officers out there. We're making sure that our neighborhoods are clean, and we're making sure that our neighborhoods are safe. I'm proud of the budget as it was presented at the 71-cent rate. I understand that that rate might not be palatable to everyone, but I think that it is what the 12th largest city and the fastest largest city in this nation need. And so I will not be supporting this measure to arbitrarily lower the tax rate. I think if a discussion is to be had about reducing the rate and reducing the budget, it is intellectually dishonest to come in and say, well, I want 1% or 2% across the board, because it does not account for the work and the effort and the intention that was put in by staff to do so. If there are particular projects that we could be leaner on. I think the more worthy discussion is to have that, which we had the opportunity to do so through the budget cycle and through our budget work session. So I cannot support this, and I look forward to voting on the proposed budget as presented by city management.
Can I just clarify what the motion was, just so you know, Councilwoman Beck, was not a percentage across the board. It was left to the discretion of the departments to cut.
Thank you. I'll go to Councilmember Blaylock next.
So I think I am the newest person here on the DS. I've been here about 140 days now.
Just get it closer.
Get it closer. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so start over. So I'm the newest one here. I ran recently. I've been on the DS for about 140 days now. My campaign's really fresh in my mind. You know, I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of gatherings of people, knocked thousands of doors, as everyone else has done up here during their campaigns. Through my district, I heard three consistent themes. One was public safety, one was roads, and the third was property taxes. For public safety, you know, people want their fire. People want the police to be there when they came. And so getting those departments right-sized was very important. Everyone wants more. Getting our roads fixed. Everyone wants to be able to drive, get to where they want to go without their cars destroyed by potholes and having to take hours to get there. And that takes funds. So I'm very proud that this budget does those things. But the third item, the property tax, I consistently heard, that people wanted tax relief. And I pledged to give that, and I made the campaign commitment, and I'm going to keep it for the no new revenue rate. And so that's the way the rest of my votes will be going today. I think this budget is great. I applaud Michael for working so hard to find ways to continue doing more. And you know, we'll just keep striving.
Thank you, Alan. Councilmember Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate all the other council members who've commented so far. City managers, staff, and council, you know, have worked diligently up to this point to arrive at the proposed property tax rate and also our FY 2023 budget. You know, the budget reflects, you know, the growing needs of our cities, residents, and departments. You know, I'm not going to go into the itemization. Councilwoman Beck covered that pretty thoroughly. Again, to remind everyone, you know, the city reflects 1/3 approximately of your total property tax bill. There is no question that residents need further relief. Where should that come from? It should come from the other 2/3, those other taxing entities, and quite frankly, the state legislature. Those of us on council recognize this burden, you know, on our residents, and we'll continue to deliver on property tax reductions where possible, and we've done that before in past years, but we have to balance our city service needs. Further reducing the tax rate by another proposed 2 cents equates to about $20 million. Then the question becomes, where's that going to come from? If you were to try to take an approach going across the board, across departments, it would not be a commensurate impact, and that wouldn't be fair. So, who would take that hit? The big ones, police and fire. I would not be supportive of that. Again, one of our emphasis here in this budget, our growing city needs its police and fire. We have to remain as much of a safe city as possible. It's a no-brainer. Back to road infrastructure. Pay-go funding is an effective way to cover many of those gaps in what we're able to fund in our bond programs and other contracts. That would be impacted as well. And again, just to give you some idea of what would result. So I will support, you know, what has been proposed already and discussed and agreed to by this council. I do appreciate the discussion. I think that this is what makes Fort Worth work. You know, we can have these discussions, we can be frank and honest with one another, but I don't think that reducing the property tax rate as much as I would want to is a prudent measure.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Bivens, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. If you recall, I, with hesitance, provided the second. I was not happy to get to City Hall this morning to find out that there was going to be a proposed change. But because I do believe in dialogue, I wanted to provide that second to get this aired out. I will ask one question of the city manager, and then I'll have further comment. Legally, do we have to take this vote today?
Well, I'm going to look at the attorney when you say legally.
Okay.
Yes, we do have to take the vote today.
I don't like having to sit up here and use my little calculator to figure out what that's going to amount to. I don't like the idea of telling department heads who have worked with us month after month after month to get us to where we are today, and then tell them, y'all figure it out. I just don't see that as being fiscally responsible. I live in a part of town where if I'm coming from DFW Airport, driving out Trinity and it's raining, I can't see the stripes in the road. You know, I live in an area where every holiday, we know fireworks are gonna go. And people are upset because fire and police can't make it to them in the time they anticipate. Now, I don't know about where it is up north and how there's a relief call for there, but I do think there are other taxing entities who maybe they'll have more time than we did. But I changed travel, doctor's appointments, disappointed family to attend every budget meeting we had. And when I was told about this last minute change, my response was, why didn't all these people come to these meetings? And Michael, that's what I honestly stated. I also questioned, are these really reflective of the public? Because the public told us they wanted more police. They wanted more fire. They wanted to help fight violent crime. I don't want to disrupt any of that because I really believe the people who showed up at the meetings, and I think Councilman Flores, you and I had the most highest attended budget meetings. I heard from people, and I heard what they said they wanted, and this is how much it cost. And so even though I provided the second, I am going to be honoring the hard work of city staff, the city manager, and listening to those people who came to meetings. And so those are my remarks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Firestone.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add, I think, a little bit of additional thought to Gina and Carlos's comments, which I agree with. And so I can't agree, although I understand the spirit of where you're coming from, Michael, in lowering the rate. I think everybody honestly would agree on that, but at what cost to our services? And to illuminate your point even further, Gina, at this moment, there's no way I could vote on that because I don't know what I'm voting on. What changes? $18 million out of a $2 billion, $2.3 billion budget is not insignificant. So where is that money going to be found? So not knowing that information, I just don't feel like I can comfortably support it. So it did lead me to think about the process and the budget process. And, you know, typically in a private sector, in a company, you go through a budget process, you look at scenarios. Maybe it's 5-year planning, maybe it's an annual budget. And what I think would be beneficial to us is in the process, in one of our work sessions, we could see different scenarios. And so it's, you know, typically your base case, your mid case, your best case. So if we could look at scenarios with different tax rates and apply them to the effect of those changes in different departments, then we could really have I think, a good debate, of what can we afford and what can we not afford in terms of our services. So I would just make mention of that as we, continuously try to improve our work in being thoughtful in the use of our tax dollars and our tax rates, that I think that would be a really useful dialogue and conversation to truly understand variable rates and how that it would impact services and the things that we're committed to.
Thank you, Leonard. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 questions and then some comments. The first is for our city manager, maybe both. I'll ask both, and David, you can delegate if needed. With the proposed decrease of 2 cents, what would be the impact on the budget? Where would you advise as leading up our city staff where we make those cuts? The second question is related to the impact on our average homestead value. What would the impact be on, let me do it this way, what would be the change over prior year to residential average homestead?
I'm going to let somebody calculate that second one.
My mental math is terrible.
Yeah, because if we want to use an average home value, that's what we'd have to figure out. So I'll join Councilmember Firestone. Part of this is we are at the last stage of the budget process, and we're trying to juggle what the possibilities are. So 2 cents is worth about $18.8 million. Every penny's worth about $9.4 million. So if you want to take out $18.8 million out of the general fund to reduce the tax rate by additional 2 cents, and if you just, I don't recommend this, but part is if you assume that everybody was going to participate in the reduction, that's $10 million out of public safety. So that's $10 million that would come out of police and fire. And if you were doing it across the board way, so just throwing that out there. The other is we added a ½ cent to the pay-as-you-go. So an easy thing to say is we would not add that ½ cent to pay-as-you-go. That'd be one of the ½ cents that we take back. And that's the money that's going to pavement markings and streetlight response times. So, I mean, if we just want to start there, because I don't want to be flippant. It's not hard to reduce a budget. The issue is, are you willing to live with the impact of reducing the budget? And those, we haven't had the conversations about what that would look like.
Thank you. And, I think while I understand the goal of trying to provide some relief to our residents, I recognize that there are some important priorities that our residents have laid before us as well, that are a function of the growing pains of a city that require investments to make sure that we have excellent city services that meet the priorities of our residents. And I believe that this budget does that. Furthermore, I think that, when we look at the current tax rate, while it's an increase, it increases the average homestead $148, which is $12 a month, which is certainly more money out of families' budgets. And I certainly understand that. I also think that the conversation around creating solutions to address the affordability crisis doesn't in and of itself live solely on the tax rate. It also lives on, as a city, us working together to do things like increasing the minimum wage right here in the city of Fort Worth. That is another important goal that we have to do. We also have to, as my colleague Elizabeth Beck said, have to work to balance our tax base so that our residents aren't paying the lion's share of the budget, and that we attract businesses that will be able to help us provide that relief. I also think that it's worth us having conversations, look at how we can provide tiered approach to the way Leonard talked about in terms of how we generate revenue as a city, and all of that I think is something that we have to focus on not only right now, but over the next year, 2 years and beyond, to ensure that we right-size the level of city services and the burdens or the shares that all of our residents and businesses contribute to that. I think that this is an excellent budget, and I'm also committed to addressing the affordability crisis that our city and residents are facing. I mean, I have personal experience to that as well, knowing that me and my wife are not always happy at the end of the year. We've sold a home before because we couldn't afford the mortgage, and my dad did the same thing, and now we're all in the same house together as roommates, which is a lot more comfortable of a situation, although not ideal. So I recognize that we have a lot of work to do as a city, and we also have a lot of growing pains that we need to address with excellent city services. And so today I'll be supporting this budget, hopeful that this 2 cents will provide some relief, but it's not where ultimately we need to end up. So that's my comments, and I'll be supporting today.
Thank you, Jared. Councilmember Nettles?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be brief. For one, I think this is political theater today, that we just come up with different things out of our pockets. And unfortunately, I understand where Councilman Allen talks about how he campaigned for it. Well, here's the thing. You can't campaign for something that really we physically cannot do. If we're going to do the no tax rate, that's like you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, we can't do that. City is growing greatly. We got infrastructure problem on the north side in Firestone District, Allen's District. We got infrastructure problem in District 8 and District 5. We at 9-6. We have issues with our violence. We're going to talk about that here shortly. And so I don't want to give people false hope. I think it sounds good, it sounds great, but it's truly false hope. We have to be physically responsible. We have to make sure we're doing our job effectively. And so I apologize to a lot of those people who thought that it was physically possible. It's impossible here for the city of Fort Worth to do the no tax rate revenue. And so I think we have heard that across the board. It's good to say, sounds cute, but just can't do it. And so that's where I am, and so I'll be supporting the budget today as it originally appeared at the 7.1%.
I'm not going to repeat some of our colleagues. Elizabeth Beck did an excellent job sort of going through the top line items in the budget. This is a long process, and city staff really deserves a tremendous amount of credit. And when you submit your decision packages, I know they are very carefully considered by city management before they are presented to us, so thank you for the hard work. To Councilmember Crane, you're doing your work for your district, and we understand that fully, and the responses you've gotten from citizens, we understand that. I think it's already been said, but I think I'm going to repeat this one more time. So on average, the current budget as proposed, not the motion on the floor from Councilmember Crane with the 2 cent reduction, we're asking taxpayers to give us $100 more per year. Per year. That's the average home cost. Yes, $100 per year. If your home is $500,000, which is not the average phone price, the ask is $180 per year. And what are you going to receive for that? 53 new patrol officers. That includes patrol, CIT, HOPE program, street lights, street markings, all the things we've talked about, and also significant investments to get this city cleaner, citizens safer. I'm telling you, we could not do the things we are promising you without this revenue. The other piece that Kenya did an excellent job articulating, families are hurting in Fort Worth right now and across Texas. Property taxes are choking them out of their homes. And you have my commitment as your mayor and this council. I know there's a legislative committee that talked about this morning that Councilmember Crane chairs. We have to work with the legislature on property taxes in this state. I know the Senate and the House both have interim charges around this. The only way any of us in this room will have property tax relief is if we buy down school property taxes, which is over 50% of your budget. Right now in the city of Fort Worth, 26% of your property tax bill goes to the city. Police, fire, streets, sewer, I could keep going and going. We are real city services. And I also think that this budget really reflects what I know I have heard for months and months from our residents. Every district presented options and really pushed on city management. So thank you all for coming and listening today. Thank you to Michael Crane for creating this discussion. I think it is important. And to Councilmember Blaylock, I understand. But the reality is you will not get relief on property taxes until we work with the legislature to do something different on school property taxes. That is where we are as a state right now. So thank you. Any other discussion, council? Yes, go ahead, Elizabeth.
One thing that I failed to mention, and I think is important to this particular conversation, is that 6 out of the 7 previous years, we have lowered the tax rate here at the city of Fort Worth. So all but fiscal year 21, I believe that was during the height of COVID, we have reduced your tax rate over the past 7 years by 14.25 cents, which is not insignificant. And that includes the 2 cents that we are lowering this tax rate this year. Last year, I believe it was 1/4 cent that we lowered it, and this year we were able to lower it 2 cents and capture some of that funding and really put it back in. And so I want to make sure that this is part of this council's and previous councils working with our city manager to continually do more with less and reduce your tax rate. So that bill, at least from the city of Fort Worth's portion, is not such a sticker shock.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other discussion, council? Okay, let's reframe. We had a motion on the floor from Councilmember Crane and a second from Councilmember Bivens. We're voting on that motion, so you can vote. Motion fails. So now we'll go back to the original motion. I'm going to turn to Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, I believe. Not yet, sorry. Just a regular motion. Okay. I need a motion on the floor. Thank you. A second, council. Motion and a second. Please vote. Sorry, Jean. Rushing you. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2467.
Mayor and council, I move that the property tax rate revenues be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 7.7125 cents per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 6.84% increase in the tax revenues, but it will pay for the things citizens told us they wanted.
Got a motion on the floor, council?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2462.
Just a regular motion, council. Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is a public hearing, 22-2473.
I think we have a report by city staff. Marion Spencer. And as Marion's coming to the microphone, we do have 2 speakers. It'll be Clint Vincent, followed by Lucas Landsman. Hi, Marion.
Hi. I was going to say good morning, but I just hit noon. So good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Marion Spencer with Development Services. The purpose of today's public hearing is to receive public comment on the amended land use assumptions, transportation improvement plan, maximum accessible fees, and collection rate options, and discuss the ordinance changes in accordance with Section 395 of the Texas Local Government Code. As you know, Fort Worth first adopted the Transportation Impact Fee Program in 2008, and we've updated it twice in 2013 and 2018. And so in accordance with state law, the 2022 update to the Impact Fee Program has been completed, and the final study and report was made available to both council and the public beginning in July 28th of this year. It's available at the city secretary's office as well as on our website. The results of the study, specifically the land use assumptions, transportation improvement plans, and the maximum assessable fee, which we call Schedule 1, were presented to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee on July 27th. The committee unanimously endorsed the report and Schedule 1. At its August 24th, 22 meeting, the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee endorsed the staff recommendations for the residential and non-residential collection rates, what we call Schedule 2. The staff and the CIAC are recommending that the collection rate for residential construction be at 80%, and for commercial non-residential be at 55% of the maximum assessable amounts in each service area. I can provide additional details if you so desire. We've also presented 2 informational reports to council and presented to the Mobility Infrastructure Transportation Committee in August and September. We have reached out to various stakeholders and seen multiple groups multiple times, including DAC, the Real Estate Council, Fort Worth Builders Association, Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors, North Fort Worth Neighborhood Alliance, Northwest Fort Worth Neighborhood Alliance, and the Chapel Creek Neighborhood Association. Staff and council have received multiple responses from each group, and some of them are signed up to speak today and sent comments as well. And so we're here today because state law requires the council to either approve or disapprove these amended items within 30 days of the public hearing. Today is the public hearing, and Development Services will be bringing forward an M&C at the October 25th meeting for your consideration to adopt the updated Transportation Impact Fee Study, Land Use Assumptions, Capital Improvement Plan, Maximum Assessable Fees, Collection Rates, and Ordinance changes, which include amendments to the discounts that we currently provide and how we address annexed lands into the respective service areas, and other ministerial changes.
Thank you, Marion. Our first speaker is Clint Vincent, followed by Lucas Landsman.
Hello, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Clint Vincent, I'm the Vice President of Land for Bloomfield Homes. And just here to represent or to be a member of the development and home building community. And I know we're not voting on collection rate today, but I just wanted to make sure our voice is heard. Homeownership creates more stable neighborhoods. It creates more stable schools, more stable communities. Homeownership creates a sense of pride in community, and that pride resonates in safer neighborhoods, schools, and communities. The biggest threat to homeownership in Fort Worth is affordability. In 2021, Bloomfield's Fort Worth neighborhoods found it difficult to satisfy demand, with most neighborhoods exceeding 6 sales per month per neighborhood. But with the rise in interest rates from roughly 3% to roughly 6%, the monthly payment for that same Bloomfield home has risen $3,000 per month. This increase in payment, along with the inflation in cost for materials, has resulted in Bloomfield's Fort Worth neighborhoods struggling to achieve 2 sales per neighborhood per month in 2022. Affordability, or lack thereof, chokes out the possibility of homeownership for many. I want to acknowledge the City Council's willingness to address this critical issue, and in doing so, I ask Council to consider the stability and safety benefits of homeownership to the City of Fort Worth's neighborhoods, schools, and communities. While the development community is willing to pay its fair share, please consider the potential increase in impact fees associated with new single-family housing, and that potential cost increases significant impact on affordability. Thank you.
Thank you, Clint. Our next speaker is Lucas Landsman, followed by Jonathan Killebrew.
Well, good morning, Council, and thank you for opening this up and giving us a voice here to speak today. My name is Luke Landsman. I am the division president for a company called LGI Homes. We are the 10th largest home builder in the United States and the only top 10 home builder that is 100% focused on entry-level starter homes, providing an affordable alternative for the residents of the cities of which we build in to convert from renting to home ownership. And I want to reiterate a little bit of what Clint said. I'm here today to talk about affordability. As an entry-level starter home builder, you know, our profit margins are extremely small. Putting that starter house out there for the residents of Fort Worth, where we've been building since 2009 and have built thousands of houses, building an affordable home right now is at an all-time high as far as risk. The people that can qualify for home ownership today is staggeringly small. A couple of changes that have happened in the last couple years within the home building world. I want to talk about average price point. When we started building in Fort Worth in 2009, we could build a starter home sub 2,000 square feet for $140,000. By 2019, our average sales price was $240,000. This year, with build costs, our average sales price is $350,000 for a starter home. And I don't envy any of you for the decisions that you have to make. No different than the conversation on the previous ballot. Everybody wants everything and nobody wants to pay for it, right? And costs are at an all-time high. I mean, our construction material cost is no different than yours. It's costing us an arm and a leg to build a house. It's costing you an arm and a leg to run a city. We completely understand that there has to be a compromise and a happy medium. But talking about affordability, and as Clint stated, interest rates are on the rise. In April of 2022, a $350,000 house in the city of Fort Worth cost the homeowner roughly $2,500 per month when you include taxes and insurance. Right now today, our sheet rate from our preferred mortgage partners is at $3,200. Adding an additional $20,000 to the cost will increase that by an additional $184 per month to a homeowner, effectively costing out the exact people that you want to help. Your teachers, your firefighters, your police officers, your first responders, eliminating their ability to buy homes in your community. So I just want you to take that into consideration today. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Jonathan Killebrew, followed by Drew Windus.
Thank you, City Council. My name is Jonathan Killebrew. I'm president of Metro Code. We do permitting and inspections, third party for the city of Fort Worth. So we represent and we see a large, vast amount of projects that are developed here in the city, both residentially and commercially. And when we were first presented this, certainly we see the need for improvements in our roads. We understand that that fee needs to be raised, and the city needs to collect a larger percentage for their impact fees, so we can have roads to drive on for these new subdivisions. And that's certainly something that we want to encourage. My biggest concern is the rates that we're increasing them at. Based on the staff's proposal, some areas are receiving rates of over 400% of their impact fee. So to put that into numbers, we're looking at $3,750, $3,750 is a typical impact fee for our single family residents, going up to $17,000. Well, that's 400% increase. And we're looking, like LGI just said, I apologize, but what he just said was absolutely correct. And what we're hurting the most is those first-time homeowners. I also want to point out commercially, the staff's recommendation to go from 12%, I believe it's 55%. Some of their estimates, a typical impact fee study would have cost somebody $150,000. In some areas is now raising it to $1.2 million. I stagger to think about the chiropractor, the dentist, the small business owner coming in, trying to build in our city, inside the city, some of these areas that need the commercial. And yes, we need the roads, I understand, but you're adding an additional $1 million of fees onto some of these projects. It makes them unsustainable. And so I'm very worried and very concerned about the impact that this study has on it. I agree that we should adopt a study. I'm just really worried about the rates at which the city is proposing, especially the speed at which they're proposing those rate increases across the board. I hope that you will give this the time and attention it needs, because I do feel like if we adopt the fee schedule as the city is proposing, it will put the brakes on development in the city of Fort Worth. They can easily build in the ETJ without these fees. They can easily go outside the city without these fees. So I would caution you to look at those fees and give it consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Our next speaker is Drew Windus, followed by Travis Clegg.
Thank you. My name is Drew Windus, and I'm a resident of Fort Worth. And I'm here on behalf of Meritage Homes. Meritage Homes is a publicly traded home builder, one of the largest home builders in the country, with homes in 9 states. And just here in Fort Worth, Meritage has over 1,500 lots in ownership and is selling in 5 communities in the city of Fort Worth. And just as Bloomfield and LGI said before me, Meritage shares the same concerns about affordability and building an affordable home for the city of Fort Worth and the residents here. And another thing I'd like to add is just when you talk about looking at the impact fees for the cities surrounding Fort Worth, so if you look at Burleson, Crowley, Denton, those cities, you're looking at a much lower traffic impact fee. And that all kind of goes into an evaluation whenever Meritage is looking for, future feasible projects and where we're going to build and what that looks like. Meritage has been very successful in Fort Worth and hopes to keep building new energy efficient and affordable homes for the residents here. But this increase to the impact fee makes us nervous about what the feasibility is going to look like going forward. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Our next speaker is Travis Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Travis Clegg with Peloton Land Solutions here in Fort Worth. I wear a lot of hats, as you guys know, in Fort Worth. I chair the Development Advisory Committee here in Fort Worth. I also chair the Government Affairs for the Builders Association, and I was past chair for the Government Association for the Real Estate Council. You should have letters by now, if not already, but shortly, from each one of those groups with their different rate recommendations and comments. As far as the DAC is concerned, we struggled with getting to a consensus, and part of that is because of the diverse lines of business within DAC. That's a good thing. We have a lot of voice of different businesses, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential. We even have the Homeowners Association and all of our chambers represented in that group. This conversation is complex. It's complex for the development community. I've personally spent dozens of hours meeting with city staff, talking to council people, talking to residents, Rusty Fuller with the North Forth Alliance, and we have differing opinions on a lot of this stuff. But the concern is that we could price ourselves out of this market. So before you vote in November on the rate collection, I urge you to sit down with these different business lines and listen to the concerns, as well as the residents. I've sat in the conversations with Mr. Firestone. I've sat in the living rooms of some of these homeowners who are struggling to get out of their neighborhoods. We all agree that we need more roads in Fort Worth. There are areas of our city that don't have any roads to get out of, not for the residents, not for commercial businesses, and more importantly, not for emergency responders. But the most efficient way to build roads in Fort Worth is from the development community. We build the roads faster and cheaper than the city does it. We build them when development happens. We don't build them 5 or 10 years after development happens with bond programs. I'd like to commend TPW, who's looked outside of the typical box and tried to deliver roads in an alternative fashion. They've done a great job with that, with accelerating right-of-way acquisition, accelerating design, but we need roads quicker. However, if we raise these fees too high, too quickly, in a market that is already showing signs of recession, high interest rates, inflation, construction costs, and land values, we could impact the developments and lose our competitiveness. I've got several deals right now that are at risk, and they're large industrial, millions of square feet of industrial programming, and they will go somewhere else. But there are also small impacts to the small business owners as well. So again, I would try to urge you to meet with.
Sorry, thank you very much. That's the last of our speakers, Council. I think Councilmember Beck is up first.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everyone's comments here today. The transportation impact fee, if you're not in the weeds on it, can be quite confusing to our everyday residents. And so I think there's some important points of clarification that we need to make before we close this public hearing. The first thing that I'd like to address is this idea of paying our fair share of the cost. And so the question then begs, well, what is the fair share? Many of you in this room, or well, all of you in this room, sat and heard a very lengthy discussion about our budget and pushes and pulls over 2% tax cut. So who pays the fair share when new development comes to Fort Worth? Is it the taxpayers or is it the developer? And what I think it is really important to understand with these fees is that when we're talking about a percentage, we're not talking about a fee assessed. What city staff has gone out and done and why you see rates changing differently across the city is because now we're accounting for the actual cost associated with expanding those arterials, for expanding those capacities on those roads that's much needed when developers come in and build those neighborhood roads. But once they get out of those neighborhoods and they go to Bonds Ranch and they can't get out, or we see a death happen, well, then it's an issue. So the question begs, what is the fair share? And I do not think that the fair share should be pushed onto our taxpayers completely. Right now, this structure is a subsidy for development. And that subsidy comes at the cost of our residents. It comes at the cost of our tax rate. Because when we are assessing a 50% transportation impact fee, right, that means the developer is paying that 50%. Well, guess who else is paying that other 50%? Not a magic money tree, but our residents through PAYGO, through our budget, through bonds. And why I absolutely want to make sure that we have and we support development in our community, and we're doing so by increasing the number of development staff so that your process is smoother and that you can get there faster. When we talk about paying the fair share, you're looking at folks that represent the people of Fort Worth, the taxpayers of Fort Worth, the folks that are going to buy those homes, live in those homes, and then get our property tax bills for the next, however long they're in that home, because those will never go away. Your mortgage might. And so I don't think it's a fair share, to be honest. I don't think that the residents of District 9 who collects no transportation impact fees should have to pay to see roads in the north built because we're subsidizing. And so I support this. I'm appreciative of staff and their thoughtfulness of going through this. I understand that it may be a cause for pause from the development community, but I find it hard to believe that the 10th largest builder in the nation can't eat some of this cost.
Councilmember Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to clarify that this proposed tax rate increase for impact fees, or I'm sorry, rate increase for impact fees, is not about the collection of revenue, but the building of mobility infrastructure. I think we all agree up here on the dais that affordable homes are a must. But so is the mobility infrastructure that's going to service those residents who are going to live in those homes. Otherwise, why would you want to live there? You know, it's been said, are we in a recession? I mean, I've heard different things. On balance, not entirely, especially here in Fort Worth. We're on track, I've been told, by our development department to approve over 20,000 permits and approved 18,000 last year. That's an upward trend. Fort Worth is growing and continues to grow. You know, staff is recommending option 3, and that reflects our economic goals and more reliance on the commercial tax revenue, where in past years we have said the city is upside down and remains upside down. We need to get away from the reliance, you know, on the residential component. You know, additionally, many commercial stakeholders and staff are open for phasing in these increases. I know that a lot of these stakeholder groups have signaled that they would be in favor of doing so, so that could be incorporated in an option that we support here. In fact, a blue ribbon task force for transportation infrastructure, which I served back when Mayor Moncrief was here, back in 2008, we recognized these problems and some of you also served on that task force with me. We were recommending starting at 60%. So again, these are options that we can do. Historically, you know, council and staff set the collection rates for the next 5 years, but keep in mind, we can revisit these things at any time if we see that maybe something isn't working as intended. To the point that the gentleman made, you know, going outside the city, you know, to say, for example, unincorporated areas to do development really would be a more expensive proposition, quite frankly, because costs would be incurred for things like water and sewer. There are no connections there. So developer would have to pay that. City of Fort Worth provides that here in our city limits. So again, appreciate the input from the DAC, all the real estate groups, the alliances, which, you know, we've heard of, and various stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Any other comments from council? No. City staff can correct me on this, but it's my understanding we're going to go over this in another public work session on October 4th. Is that correct, Leanne? Okay. And we won't officially, hi, Marianne, there you are. Is that right, October 4th?
Yes, next Tuesday.
Okay, great. And then we won't officially vote on this until which date in November is it currently proposed?
October 25th.
October 25th. So we've got plenty of time. So those of you that came to speak today, I know all of us have requests for meetings. We'll be doing that in the next several weeks. So thank you to the city staff, Marianne, for leading us to this point, and we'll keep charging. Thank you. So at this point, we just need a motion to close the public hearing, council. Thank you. Motion a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is public hearing MMC 22-0794 with report of city staff by Crystal Hinojosa.
Good afternoon, Mayor Parker and members of City Council. I'm Crystal Hinojosa. I serve as the PIT Administrator in the Economic Development Department. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive comments from the public regarding the Quail Valley Public Improvement District Area Number 3's proposed assessments to be levied, approval of the service and assessment plan update, and assessment roll. The Quail Valley Public Improvement District is currently comprised of approximately 1,704 acres of land located west Fort Worth and its ETJ, and is anticipated to be developed in 7 phases. Today's hearing and MNC addresses the 3rd phase, which is area number 3. Both the advertisement and the notification letters were completed in compliance with requirements of Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 372. As described in the Service and Assessment Plan Update, improvements in the amount of $10,750,000 are to be funded in special assessments. The special assessments will be levied across 701 residential units representing 150 acres and will be collected over a 30-year period. In addition to the $10,750,000 of improvements funded by the special assessments, the developers are constructing without reimbursement from Quail Valley PID an additional additional improvements in the amount of $26,440,000.
Palladium Oak Grove, a multifamily affordable housing development. Palladium Oak Grove Limited intends to submit a 4% non-competitive housing tax credit application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, also known as TDHCA. In order for a housing tax credit application to be submitted to TDHCA, a municipality is required to hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the project. The proposed development will consist of approximately 240 units. There will be 48 units set aside for households earning 80% or less of area median income. 168 units will be available to households earning 60% or less of area median income, with the remaining 24 units set aside for households earning 0 to 30% of area median income. The proposed development will be located at 840 and 1000 Oak Grove Road in Fort Worth. Staff has reviewed the request by Palladium Oak Grove Limited and found that the development is consistent with the quality affordable housing goals and priorities in the city's 2018 to 2022 consolidated plan. Therefore, staff recommends that after any public comments are received, the public hearing be closed and the City Council take formal action to approve MNC 22-0795 and the attached resolution of no objection for the development of Palladium Oak Grove. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Avis, come on up. Hi there.
Good afternoon, Mayor Parker, Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, members of the City Council. I'm Avis Shashan. I'm the Executive Director of Real Estate Development with Palladium USA. First, I have to say, Mayor Parker, I hope you get well. There's nobody who is best to serve on the dais.
Thank you.
Yes. Leanne, this is the first time I see you in action on the dais. I'm so proud of you. No one is more deserving to be city attorney, so I'm happy for you. Councilmember Beck, I want to say thank you for all of your support and working to us get this point. I'm so happy that our other fellow housers in the room did mention affordability and the housing affordability crisis, not just in the nation, not just in the state, but in your great city as well. So this development will help address that. We're excited to break ground. Well, actually, we've broken ground, but to celebrate the groundbreaking in Councilmember Nettles' district on October 18th. I hope you all are able to come. But the affordability crisis for housing is real. People are getting priced out of their homes and can't afford their mortgage rates. Rental rates are going up as well, and they need to have a better and greater housing choice without sacrificing quality. I was hoping this would be my last time before you, but with interest rates increasing last week, it's just making it dire to make these deals work. But I'm a fighter, and we're going to keep it going. One of the other things I did want to mention, legislatively, next year, the state has a surplus. We need to be fighting to deploy resources to our cities to help address infrastructure, which includes housing. So I'll be willing to help and work with your staff to be creative, to figure out ways to help solve these problems. So thank you, and we appreciate y'all's support.
Thank you, Avis. That's the last of our speakers on this item. Councilmember Beck.
Thanks, Avis. I appreciate that. And I will tell you that I think while I'm personally excited that we get to bring some more affordability to District 9, I don't think anyone is more excited than the MPO that covers that area. So for those of you that don't know, there's a non-conforming use currently on that site, and it causes a lot of problems for us on the criminal front. And so the development of this particular project eliminates that and provides housing and makes it a lot safer. So with that, I move to close the public hearing and approve the MNC.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is public hearing MMC 22-0797, report of city staff. Lori Gordon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Lori Gordon, the Planning Section Manager for the Park and Recreation Department. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comment on the proposed use of parkland at Arcadia Trail Park South for an existing 8-inch sewer line and associated maintenance area that is not within a permanent maintenance area or easement. The existing sewer line currently serves Bluebonnet Elementary School. Arcadia Trail Park South is located in Council District 4. In accordance with the Chapter 26 of the Texas Park and Wildlife Code, the City Council must provide notice and hold a public hearing in accordance with Chapter 26 requirements, find no feasible or prudent alternative exists for the use of parkland, and find that the proposed location includes all reasonable planning to minimize the impact to the park. The existing 8-inch sanitary sewer line on parkland is approximately 80 feet in length and is not within an easement or permanent maintenance area. The 8-inch sewer lost throughout the project. The tree mitigation fees will be paid into the tree fund and used to plant trees on public property in Park Planning District 5. On August 24th, 2022, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board endorsed staff's recommendation to the City Council to authorize the use of this portion of Arcadia Trail Park South for a sanitary sewer line and associated maintenance area. In accordance with state law, public notice of the hearing was advertised in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram on September 6th, 13th, and 20th of 2022. An exhibit map was available for public review on the Park and Recreation Department website. Signage was posted at the site noting the proposed use and providing instructions for directing comments to the department. An email announcing the proposed conversion was sent to the registered neighborhood associations and the Bluebonnet Elementary School on August 19th of 2022. As of this date, staff has received 4 public inquiries. The inquiries include more information about the project, concerns about the tree removal, and reforestation opportunities within Arcadia Trail Park South, using the tree mitigation funds received. Staff recommends hearing any additional public comment, and upon completion of the public comment, staff recommends that the City Council close the public hearing and act on the M&C. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Councilmember Blaylock.
So, thank you. At this point, I appreciate we've reduced the number of trees that were going to be impacted at this site, and the neighborhood has reached out and does want us to continue to work to reforest some of that area. As long as we can keep those conversations ongoing, I'm comfortable closing this and moving it forward, and motion to do so.
Second. Am I allowed to answer that?
Sure, of course.
Okay, just we try, the city forester tries, and we have on-site meetings whenever we do this to try and find ways to continue to reduce, and normally we're able to have some success with that, so it's our goal to reduce it, to eliminate as few trees as possible. Thank you.
Lori. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is public hearing MMC 220798 with report by city staff Lori Gordon.
Hello again. Okay, I'm Lori Gordon, the Planning Section Manager for the Park and Recreation Department. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comment on the proposed use of parkland at Rolling Hills Park for 2 utility easements. Rolling Hills Park is located in Council District 8. In accordance with Chapter 26 of the Texas Park and Wildlife Code, the City Council must provide notice and hold a public hearing in accordance with the Chapter 26 requirements, find no feasible or prudent alternative exists for the use of parkland, and find that the proposed location includes all reasonable planning to minimize impact to the park. Under the 2018 bond program, the City of Fort Worth will install lights on 7 playing fields within Rolling Hills Park. During the project design, it was discovered that the existing underground conduit on the west side of the field was not in an easement. Encore is requesting 2 easements, 1 easement on the west for the existing underground conduit and wire, and 1 easement for the east proposed conduit and wire to the service of the lights. The west utility easement requires an area of approximately 4,994 square feet or 0.115 acres of parkland. The east utility easement requires an area of approximately 4,838 square feet or 0.111 acres of parkland. Installation of these utilities requires an adjacent temporary construction workspace that is approximately 13,800 square feet or 0.317 acres for the easements combined. The park will remain open during the project. The city forester has determined that there are no trees that are impacted with this project. On August 24th, 2022, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board endorsed staff's recommendation to the City Council to authorize the use of a portion of Rolling Hills Park for 2 utility easements. In accordance with state law, public notice of the hearing was advertised in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram on September 6th, 13th, and 20th of 2022, and an exhibit map was available for public review on the Park and Recreation Department website. Signage was posted at the site noting the proposed use and providing instructions for directing comments to the department. An email announcing the proposed conversion was sent to adjacent registered neighborhood associations. As of this date, staff has not received any public inquiries regarding the project. Staff recommends the hearing any additional public comments, and upon completion of the public comments, staff recommends that the City Council close the public hearing and act on the M&C. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lori. Councilmember Nettles.
Moves to close the public hearing and act and approve M&C 22-0798.
Got a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0789.
Sorry, I lost my place completely. Councilmember Beck, I'm going to turn to you first.
I move to approve MNC 22-0789 with the following changes. To amend recommendation 1 to increase the allocation by $8 million from $12 million to $20 million to include the Tobias Place Affordable Housing Project contingent upon the developer's receipt of sufficient financing to construct the development, and 2, to make the conforming changes throughout as shown in an amended MNC.
Thank you, Councilmember Beck. I've got a motion, and I think I'm going to turn to Councilmember Williams first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to state on the record that I'm recusing myself and abstaining from participation on this item due to conflict of interest related to my current employer, the Terranary Food Bank. And also I have filed an affidavit with the city secretary as required by state law.
Second to Beck's motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Chris. I've got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Gina.
It's been such an interesting morning. I just want to be sure this is the time to ask. I need to make sure this is the item that involves the VIP program. Is this your item, Pastor McIntosh?
It's related, but we have another additional MNC on that United Way
Okay.
1 Second Collaborative in a moment.
Okay, because I just don't want to mess up that vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I've got a motion on the second. Any discussion, Council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0790.
Can I get a motion, Council? Motion and a second. Is there anything legal, Leanne, that Jared needs to do on this item too? Go ahead, Jared.
This one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? I just want to state again for the record that I won't be participating in this item due to conflict of interest related to my current employer, the Terranary Food Bank, and will abstain from participation, and have filed an affidavit with the city secretary as required by state law.
Thank you, Jared. I've got a motion and a second, Council. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0791.
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. You should have said go Rams, Chris.
Rams.
Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0792.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0793.
This is the item you were asking about, Gina. Yeah.
Can you come to the podium? How long you been here?
Since 10 o'clock.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Can
Good
you
afternoon.
provide some information as to how these funds will be used and how this will help in the fight against violence.
Okay, first of all, thank y'all. Good afternoon now to the council members of the city of Fort Worth. Before I go there, I just want to share something. Last year, we had 118 homicides in the city of Fort Worth. As of August of 2022, we had 17 homicides when it comes to teens. And I think we all would agree that 17 is an astronomical number, because if one teenager loses his life to gun violence, that's one too many. VIP Fort Worth, which I have been given the privilege of being the director of, has been consistently fighting against just gun violence in the inner city. But this collaboration would allow us to move from just being in certain areas in the city of Fort Worth to being able to cover this whole city, but not just this whole city, but even different parts of the county. In August, Mr. Firestone was talking about something that the city would do, an initiative that they would start, because I think he even understood that we had a problem, and we're looking at the gun violence that's taking place in this city, and it's no longer just in the inner city. Gun violence is a problem for this city as well as the surrounding areas. This collaboration will again allow VIP to broaden this and expand its reach, but it also will allow this city the opportunity to do something that's to set a precedent, because nobody else in the state of Texas is doing this collaboration with United Way and with other organizations who are, as we would say, boots on the ground, serving in the community. Given the opportunity, man, we can now approach gun violence from a holistic, I guess you could say, way of healing, and offering more than just opportunities to get in between gun violence, but now offer these young people opportunities of healing through counseling, education, housing, just so many different things that these families may need. I believe this collaboration will allow us to do that.
I want to thank you for your commitment, your dedication, your presence. I think you owe your wife lunch. She's been here with you. And thank you for the work you do. And with that, I know there are other comments, but I want to make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Gina. Pastor McIntosh, thank you for being here. I've got a second on the floor from Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Nettles.
Thank you. And I just want to add some context to this. Thank you, Pastor May. And all of you, and see Lil King here, as well as some of your organization. Bishop is here supporting this as well. And I just want to add a little context to this, because there's a lot of discrepancies of why it took so long or what was happening. Did the city not support the collaboration? And there was a lot of chatter, and some of it was disappointing and some of it was favorable. And I want to speak to me personally and some of the conversation that we have had in the work session and the hard conversations offline and online. My goal and commitment was to make sure that this is just not a box that we check, that we actually collaborate, we actually have organizations, and that United Way is the administrator and they do what they have stated that they would do. And so from day one, when I took office, I have always supported stopping the effort of gun violence, as well as VIP and other organizations that do it. And so I want to make sure that is clear, that I don't think no one on this council were against it. But one thing that I have been sent to do is to challenge the process, to make sure that if you say it's apple, and when I bite into it, it tastes like an apple and not an orange. And so, again, thank you for being here. There's some I'm putting the work session about how we pay for parking, because they've been here 3 hours. I don't know how much time they had to feed the meter, but that's going to come up on a work session. I'm going to talk about that. But all of you, thank you for staying here and helping us take care of business. So I will be supporting this motion to move this effort forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Nettles. Councilmember Beck.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. I just want to thank, I see Leah King back here in the back. I think you moved. Were you afraid we're going to throw tomatoes or something? You can come back down. We're not going to get you, Leah. I just want to thank you, your team, Chief Noakes, and those of us here on council. When this was first brought to us, I think Chris really adequately expressed the reservation. And not that we don't want to support organizations like yours, Pastor, or that we don't want to work to reduce gun violence in the city. But if we have these limited dollars, we just want to make sure we get it right. And so I appreciate you, Leah, your team, and everyone else making sure that our questions were answered and making us comfortable with, being good stewards of this dollars, and that we aren't just checking a box, but that we're doing something that's going to have a lasting impact on the community. So it was not the easiest process, but I think it's a process that has gotten us to a better place.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. When I first took office, I remember one of the first tragedies that I experienced in this seat, being young brother Brewer, and attending his funeral. Roger knows because you were with me. It was hard for me to see a young life with so much bright future ahead of him laying there, and seeing the North Crowley helmet, which Chris and I wore on the casket. And to realize that that story was the story of so many other kids right here in Fort Worth for the past 6 years. And so for the past year, I personally had a hard time sleeping, especially knowing that many of the kids that lost their lives to gun violence look like me and walked the streets that I walked. And so I want to thank, this council for considering this proposal. I want to thank Leah King, Roger, Pastor Mack. You've been doing this work. Y'all have been doing this work a long time. And I'm really, really grateful. Our kids need it, and I firmly believe that it takes a village to raise kids, and y'all are definitely doing that. And I'm proud to be able to do that with y'all. I also want to thank Chief Noakes. I know he's not here, but and city staff as well, because I know that this was not an easy feat getting here, but it's such an important work, and this investment is only the beginning of many investments that we need to make, and that other stakeholders, including the state of Texas and our federal departments, need to make investments in, which I know y'all are going to do when this collaborative is underway. So thank y'all for everything, and I'm proud to support this.
Thank you, Jared. Councilmember Flores.
Mayor, I just want to briefly say again, thank you for all involved. Thank you to Leah King and United Way for providing that necessary infrastructure for this, collaboration to be successful, because that's what we need. We want to ensure that there is success, planned for it. I think the structure exists there. We need to reduce our youth-related gun violence. I mean, that's clear. It's been said, but how do we do it? We do it by bringing more tools to the table, and I think this will be an effective tool. So it has my support.
Thank you, Carlos. It's already been said, thank you to Pastor Mack and Roger and Leah for being here today, and the police department. This is the right thing to do, and all this diocese is here to help support your really hard work in the coming months. And we're learning along with you. If you've never sat down with Roger, Pastor McIntosh, you should. Maybe that's a hint to Harrison, who I think is vigorously typing back there. These gentlemen know what they're talking about. So thank you very much for being here today and spending so much time with us. Council, we can vote. Didn't mean to startle you, Harrison. Just making sure you're awake. Live tweeting. You're doing great.
Next item is MMC 22-0786.
Move for approval.
No. What's wrong? Oh, Councilmember Firestone.
Read something in.
Second.
That's all right. You want to read this? I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 1.180 acres in permanent water facility easements and 1.359 acres for temporary construction easements owned by JLM of Tampa Incorporated. and JLM of Tampa Incorporated, AKA JLM Tampa Inc., located at 9900 through 9853 and 9845 block of Saginaw Boulevard in the Benjamin Thomas Survey, abstract number 1497, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is needed for the north side for 24-inch water main phase 1B project, a public use that will provide water to new development in the northern part of the city of Fort Worth. The land rights in the subject property are needed for new water line facility improvements. The property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Second.
Thank you. Council, please vote.
Next item is MMC 22-0787.
Councilmember Firestone.
Okay. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 0.395 acres in permanent water facility easements owned by E Steel 2 LLC, located at the 9857 and 9965 block of Saginaw Boulevard in the Benjamin Thomas Survey, abstract number 1497, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is needed for the north side 24-inch water main phase 1B project, a public use that will provide water to new development in the northern part of the city of Fort Worth. The land rights in the subject property are needed for new water line facility improvements. The property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0788.
Councilmember Firestone. Oh, he's trying to pass off his motions over here.
Surprise you. All right. Okay. I move that the Fort Worth City Council adopt the resolution authorizing use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 0.023 acres in a permanent water facility easement and 0.18 acres in a temporary construction easement owned by KLLB-AIV LLC, located at 10125 Saginaw Boulevard in the Benjamin Thomas Survey, abstract number 1497, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is needed for the north side 24-inch water main phase 1B project, a public use that will provide water to new development in the northern part of the city of Fort Worth. The land rights in the subject property are needed for new waterline facility improvements. The property interest to be acquired is described by meets and bounds and depicted by survey exhibits attached to this mayor and council communication.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0784.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0785.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0796.
Motion and a second. Please vote, council.
Mayor, that motion passes, and that concludes all of the items on the agenda.
Thank you, Council. And I'm going to close today's meeting in honor of Thomas James Patterson, who is T.J. Patterson's father, who passed away in Lubbock, Texas at the age of 85. I know that our prayers are with T.J. and his entire family, who works here at the City of Fort Worth on behalf of our community. Thomas James Patterson died on September 21st, but he was Lubbock's first Black council member, an activist and leader. His biography is quite impressive, and our prayers again are with T.J. Patterson, who's one of our City of Fort Worth employees. Meeting adjourned.